Okay, so on our board, what happened was that everybody pretty much stayed the same except for the wealthy class, which Diana started with $2,500 and ended up doubling that amount. What also happened was people united. I know that I was adopted by two middle class parents, as I was a working class member. I actually ended up moving up to middle class after we had split our wealth, but everybody tended to stay the same, except of course Diana in the wealthy class, who was very good at kind of like taking money. What happened to me personally? I personally, as a working class member, tried to buy several properties. Ended up realizing that I bought a property that I couldn't actually have. Oops. But I ended up being adopted, as I said, and so that kind of answers, were there any alliances formed? There were. Two people in our poor or working class got married to help them. They actually ended up buying all of the brown buildings and putting hotels on them, so that kind of, whether or not they ended with wealth, had the game continued, they would have been able to kind of get more money through that. And the other alliance, again, was through the working and the middle class, who tried to form together so that they could buy new properties to somewhat compete with Diana, which was kind of impossible. What was my reaction to what happened? I think that it does actually accurately display a lot of what really happens in real life. I think we don't really think how defined our class and our money is, and how difficult it actually is to move up or move away from one specific grouping. I think the only thing that it doesn't really demonstrate is kind of like the luck or the chance that can happen. Had Diana kind of like, as Jeremy said in his video, had she been like a benefactor for someone in the poorer class, then they could have moved up. But the game doesn't really demonstrate how people can move up through the kind of luck or chance, which doesn't happen all that often, but just doesn't happen in Monopoly at all. What does this tell us about a classless society? I think this tells us that there isn't one, not in America. That, and somebody said this in their other video, that had we all started with the same amount of money, we all would have ended up with different amounts of money, as somebody had bought Boardwalk and then was able to buy a hotel there. And there's kind of like that whole side of it where eventually disparities in wealth seem to arise. Let's see. What kind of real life institutions? Well, you see capitalism mirrored here. I think you also see kind of like investment and that kind of stuff. And I think you generally mirror like American society as well. The wealthy are extremely wealthy and the poor are very poor, and there's not really room for mobility, although we think there is. And sorry, I forgot, what kind of power relations did you see? Well, the wealth had by far the most power and used it accordingly. And in terms of upward and downward mobility, well, I moved up one class from working to middle through adoption, so through a class alliance. We didn't really have class conflicts because you couldn't complain, but I liked the game and I thought it was really fun.